In spite of President Joe Biden's intervening to help keep 115,000 plus railroad workers from going on strike and ultimately disrupting deliveries of cars, new and used cars, crops, containers of imported goods, and countless other products and raw materials, freight rail workers voted to strike. Now, the United States railroad companies that could potentially be immediately impacted, like Union Pacific, BNSF, which is Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, big, larger railroad investment. You've got CSX, you've got Norfolk Southern, Kansas City Railroad, Kansas City Southern Railroads, as well as other railroads, could be immediately impacted if a strike begins and would dump heavy burden onto the already labor shortage strained, entrepreneur driven, owner operator trucking industry. Goods like coal, construction materials, lumber, auto parts, new cars, wheat, corn, soybeans, canned produce, chicken, animal feed, crude oil could all be indefinitely stuck on shipping containers. And truckers being sued in the state of California and port commissioners following a week-long protest over AB 5. Trucking companies like Swift, JB Hunt, and Snyder could be immediately forced to pick up the slack to keep the supply chain from grinding to a complete halt. Now, a document from Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop shows that he was potentially involved in a 2018 project by Burisma Holdings to export grain from the Ukraine to China. Could President Biden's entrepreneur's son, Hunter Biden, have influenced the sanctions and ultimately the war that is going on between Russia and the Ukraine? We're also going to discuss China following up on multiple threats to the United States regarding House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan and the fallout. U.S. House Representative Jeff Van Drew believes that Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan seems to be more personal than governmental. Now, to be sure to get more news and money updates like this one regarding our economy, shortages, supply chain, and ways to increase your income, make sure to hit the subscribe button and also drop a like for the video. Totally appreciate that, you guys. Now, right now, China is absolutely pissed as the global superpower China fires missiles near Taiwan and drills after Nancy Pelosi's most recent visit just yesterday. China, following up on multiple threats to the United States, China deployed several planes and fired live missiles near Taiwan on Thursday, or earlier this morning, I should say, in its biggest ever drills in the Taiwan Strait, just one day after U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi made a trip to Taiwan. Taiwan officials said that the drills violated United Nations rules, invaded its space, and threatened free air and sea navigation. Now, question is that many people have is, are we on the verge of World War III? China's military confirmed multiple firings of conventional missiles in waters off of Taiwan as a part of planned exercises in 6 zones set to run until noon on Sunday. It activated more than 100 planes, including fighter jets and bombers, and over 10 warships. State broadcasters are making everyone aware of what is going on. Now, President Biden has been accused of going soft on China amid his son's ongoing scandals, and most recently ahead of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan just this week. Now, President Biden has urged Nancy Pelosi to cancel this trip last month, basically insisting that the military thinks that it's not a good idea right now. President Biden's stance sparked immediate backlash, and even Republican members of Congress responded by rallying, supporting Nancy Pelosi's visit. Democrats seem to not be able to get on the same page right now. Now, President Joe Biden has predicted in March of 2022 that the war would upend global wheat supplies, since Russia and Ukraine jointly account for about 1/4 of the world's wheat exports. a document from Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop actually showed that he was involved in a 2018 project with or by Burisma Holdings to export grain from the Ukraine to China. Looks like Hunter Biden's trying to make a little money on the side. A little bit of entrepreneurship here, but unfortunately, it's got most of the United States and even the world at risk of food shortages and low food supply. Now, the scandal scarred the first son's signature was among those on the Burisma board resolution, which was dated July 27th of 2018, that concerned the Sino-Ukraine Silk Road grain port project. Now, in addition to Hunter, 7 other members of Burisma's board of directors ultimately authorized their advisor to represent with all Chinese potential shareholders for development, negotiation, and contracting issues, as well as an operational management of the project Sino-Ukraine Silk Road grain port. The revelation of Hunter's ties to this particular venture came a month after his father's administration, President Joe Biden, accused China of stockpiling wheat among a global food crisis fueled by Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. Now, the post-examination of the infamous laptop has exposed how a mirage of Hunter's foreign business dealings unfolded when his father, Barack Obama's vice president, was in office. Now, the advisors referenced in the China-Ukraine grain project is the same operative who actually sent Hunter an email thanking him for introducing him to the then Vice President Biden in Washington back in April of 2015. Additional documents uncovered from this laptop show that Porzinski had been invited to a dinner arranged by Hunter so that Biden could actually meet his overseas business partners from Ukraine, from Russia, and from Kazakhstan. Now, according to the documents from the laptop, President Joe Biden met with at least a dozen of Hunter Biden's business partners, including in China when he flew with his son to Beijing aboard Air Force Two in 2013. I guess Obama had Air Force One taken out at the time. Now, freight rail workers, they are on the verge of striking for better pay and working conditions, which is ultimately a move that would cap years of stalled negotiations. In a recent vote, 99.5% of the members of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, a union leading a coalition of freight rail workers in negotiations, authorized a strike. This is getting scary, you guys. Now, the National Carriers Conference Committee that represents Union Pacific, BNSF, CSX, Norfolk Southern, Kansas City Southern, and other railroads said it believes the wage increases that railroads are offering are fair based on other recent major labor agreements. But the unions argue, basically saying none of the offers so far do enough to offset inflation or reflect the current worker shortages. Plus, the railroads, they want workers to pay more of their health insurance costs, which the unions would say would eat up most, if not all, of the proposed wages. So basically, workers aren't getting ahead and inflation is ultimately eating their lunch. Now, if it was simply a matter of management versus labor, a strike would likely already have started. But rail workers occupy a peculiar area of labor law, one that is governed by a century-old federal law that gives Congress and President Biden or any sitting president wide powers to avert strikes, even though that this labor remains the most powerful threat workers have to get better wages and working conditions. Now, of course, at the end of the day, workers can always just simply walk off independently and just quit their jobs. So that's something that neither the president nor labor unions or anyone else can stop a worker from just calling it quits and walking off the job. But the biggest issues have to deal with working conditions. Broadly, workers feel the railroads responding to investor demands are exploiting the workers and customers for the sake of ever increasing profits. This is the business's goal. The goal is to expand profits, improve their balance sheets, and this is exactly what these billion-dollar businesses are doing. Workers have been asked to do more with less, which they say is making the railroads less safe. New attendance policies have also, made working for the railroad a living hell, according to the workers. And shippers who send goods along the rail are equally fed up with the railroads for degrading service standards, which is a result of the same cost-cutting measures that workers are pissed off about. Now, the railroads are also pushing for one-person train crews. Can you imagine one of these, 100, 200 car trains being pulled down the railroad tracks with just a single operator? Well, yes, the railroads are also pushing for one-person train crews on many crews, saying that the second person is no longer necessary with modern technology and will enable them to compete with hypothetical driverless trucks, a contention that many workers disagree with and say that the railroads would be made less safe and service even worse. Meanwhile, the railroad companies report record earnings and record profits. Now, this whirlwind of events could lead to a World War III event. They could cause the U.S. economy to grind to a complete halt. They could even cause widespread empty shelves, food shortages, and chaos. Now, this is an evolving situation, and I will continue to keep my community informed. If you're new to the channel, please consider hitting the like button for the video. Also, subscribe to the channel for future updates and news. You guys be safe.